Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is To Back or Not to Back. We're going to dive into a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about the games, the pledge levels, the stretch goals, the optional buys, all that and more, and of course, whether or not you should back them. Before we dive into all of that, usual disclaimer that I do work for GameFound, please take that into account. While this series has been going on for over 4 years now, I have been working as CMO of GameFound for the past year and a half, and please take any potential biases into account. And before we dive into crowdfunding goodness, we're going to start off with our usual Cult of the Now. We're about to look at a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, but this is your usual reminder that you can go ahead and get a game available that you can get plenty of games that are available now without going through the world that is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has a lot of charm, of joy, of potential promise, and some games you can't even get at retail, but very often it is more expensive. They're going to come with delays. You're backing something that doesn't have enough feedback and audience reviews and all that stuff just yet. And to that end, you can go ahead and get plenty of great games at retail, very often great games that were available on crowdfunding. Today we have Stone Spine Architects, a role-player tale, currently at Game Nerds. This was on crowdfunding, and if you didn't care about the extras and the plushies and all that, if you just want to play a good game, you can go ahead and get Stone Spine Architects available for $31.47 over at Game Nerds. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into the campaign, starting off with Nanga Parbat Animal Powers. I will say, I just realized we don't have any board game adjacent this week. Usually I'd say we generally have 2 or 3 in the board game adjacents, whether it's RPGs, accessories, content creators, who knows what. This week we're diving straight into the campaign, starting off with Nanga Parbat. Nanga Parbat's going to be coming to you from Steve Finn, from Dr. Finn. He does a bunch of these filler games, is what he's very often known for, both under his own publishing company, as well as he often does things with Pencil First and or other companies. But this Nanga Parbat is a game of trying to manipulate animals as you place them onto a mountain based on different ways that they all operate as you try to score as many points as possible. This over here is for Animal Powers. It's an expansion of a bunch of cards, giving you new ways to manipulate the animals for certain rewards. It's going to be a new expansion you can get for the game, with 257 backers, $3,300 raised, 9 days to go. The current pledge levels for this one is going to be $4 for the new Animal Powers pack, because there's not much to it. It's just, again, this is the game, the mountains, you're placing your hikers, the tents over here, trying to manipulate the animals as you gather them and score them. Over here we have the new Animal Powers over here, which is going to be a little module that gives you various animal powers. Oh, and by the way, the game is currently available on BGA if you want to try it out over there. And then we have the Nanga Parbat promo collection for $10. We have the super deal Nanga Parbat plus animal powers for $15. Then we have the full bundle over here of the OC Killer Dr. Finn bundle for $65, and then even more for $125 if you want to get various bundles of Dr. Finn's games. This one will be a short one over here. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? In general, when it comes to small box games, they historically tend to be very hard to hold the value. Once you factor in the price of the game, the general demand on small box games, and the fact that you have to go ahead and get them again in general. So I'd say usually these types of games, including this over here, is less likely to hold its value. If you back this game and it turns out to be a game that's not for you, your options are likely trading in bulk or giving it away or gifting it away, because generally these will not sell for that much on the secondhand market, especially once you factor in the shipping costs to get them in general. So if you want to go ahead and support the creator, if you just want to get your hands in the game, all those are good reasons to back, but it's one that if it doesn't work for you, likely not holding its value. Moving on to Picky Eater's Ultimate Collection, a delectably devious game for 2 to 6 players. 572 backers, $42,000 raised, 10 days to go. Picky Eaters gives you a bunch of ways to go ahead and get this card drafting game where across a few rounds you're going to be drafting various cards, trying to combine them, get as many points as possible in this Picky Eaters game. The pledge levels in this one, and again, it's another small box game. I will say the past few weeks, by the way, have been relatively heavy weeks as far as consistently hitting that hour mark. I'm guessing this will be a shorter video, but we'll see. We'll see. We're finally catching up in all the crowdfunding campaigns, although next week I think we have a bunch more launching. But over here we have the expansion that we have any one expansion for the game for $19. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the expansions and show you what they have over here, because they do have 3 expansions: Special Sauce, More Picky Eaters, and Double Recipes. And if we scroll down over here, More Picky Eaters is just giving you more cards of the various types to mix in different ways. Special Sauce is going to be giving you the new asymmetric Special Sauce cards that give players unique powers. That's going to be all these cards over here. And then Double Recipes revises the way the recipes work in the base game, giving you a whole bunch more recipes, creating more different gameplay opportunities for the game. You can get any one expansion for $19. You get the Picky Eaters base game for $29 on a $35 MSRP. As usual, MSRPs, you're usually going to find them anyway for around 70 to 80% of the MSRP. So 20 to 30% off MSRP is fairly standard for the official MSRP versus the retail offering. You always want to take that into account, because when you see a $29 price point on a $35 MSRP, usually that'll be cheaper in retail without having to pay shipping if you are bundling your order for whatever the site's free shipping tiers are. So usually you can save by just getting it at your local online game store. I don't think local, your online friendly game store. Picky plus 1 expansion will be $39, so that's going to be a drop of a discount. If you consider the fact that an expansion is going to run you $19 and the base game is going to run you $29, you are getting more of an expansion over there, $39 versus a $60 MSRP. Again, once you factor in the shipping, still kind of borderline. We have all 3 expansions for $45, and we have Picky plus all 3 expansions for $65 off an MSRP of $110. Now again, based on MSRPs, that will be where you actually see a savings over there compared to getting a crowdfunding, but you have to want the game effectively. And then we have over here, we have the collector's box for $79, and the Picky plus collector's box for $99. And then we have the all-in returning backers for $99, and the all-in for $119, including a little rondelle, a lazy Susan rondelle to go ahead and draft the cards from the center of the table. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. If you are looking at the higher pledge levels and comparing it to retail, crowdfunding is going to be a better opportunity to get your hands in it at the higher tiers, not the lower tiers. The lower tiers, I would just get it at retail. But if you do want some of the exclusive stuff or the more limited stuff, or even just the MSRP savings, you'll see those at the higher tiers. As far as will this hold its value in the second-hand market, if it's not a game for you, I don't believe it will. I don't think there's enough demand in this one. You can actually check it out. There's very little sales data on this one. They already had a first print run of the game, but there doesn't seem to be a ton of demand for this one. Again, 572 backers is nice, but it's not, amazing nice. And so overall, I think this is one that is the best price to get it if you're looking to get it new, but, well, at higher levels, but it's not one that'll hold its value. Moving on, we have Kinfire Council. 1,757 backers, $204,000 raised, 15 days to go. Kinfire Council is the third in the series of Kinfire games. We have Kinfire Chronicles, we have Kinfire Delve, and we have Kinfire Council. All 3 different games within the Kinfire universe, but they are, again, the shared universes, but that's it. They're not shared gameplay mechanisms. Kinfire Chronicles is going to be more of a general dungeon crawler. Kinfire Delve is almost like a roguelite deck building, roguelite solo engine or cooperative engine, although without the official discovery that you'd find in a roguelite. And then Kinfire Council is going to be a worker placement game with degrees of voting on the rules in play, of the laws in play that affect the game, almost similar to Lancaster. If you ever played Lancaster, it kind of has similarities as to Lancaster, both in terms of the worker placement and in terms of the voting of the laws in play on the game. Past that, you're going to be trying to build a variety of lighthouses until you build the final lighthouse, score up points over there, and all dealing with your own asymmetric combination of something. You're working with a combination, it's somewhere down over there. You basically combine 2 different things to create your own little player board or player powers over here. Utilize those as you try to, figure out the engine over there, vote on the correct laws, get them in place, and then score as many points as possible in this 2 to 6 player game. The base game over here is going to run you $60 on an MSRP of $60. It's going to give you the free bonus Kickstarter. Again, free is always relative. It just means included in that price point. But the first player marker over here, but unless you really care about that, you're looking at overpaying both on MSRP plus shipping to get the base pledge over here. For the Kinfire Council Deluxe Bundle, you're looking at $99 on a theoretical MSRP of $100, or not even MSRP of $100. It's an MSRP of $90 plus the upgrade kit of $40 over there. So over there, that's what leaves me the main pledge level for the campaign, the $99. You're getting a total of $130 of value in theory, but again, that's the kind of thing you'd see anyway, and you are paying the $20 in shipping anyway, so you're looking at around $120 to get your hands on around $130 worth of stuff. So really the only reason to get your hands on this pledge level, as opposed to just waiting and everything cheaper, is the limited access on Deluxe on the upgrade pack, or alternatively that $10 value for the Speaker's Medallion coin, which I'd say overall is not that compelling a reason. So again, in terms of should you back or should you not, if you're looking at comparisons to retail, your cheapest way to get this game is just going to be wait till retail, get the base game, see if it's a game that works for you, without spending $120 to get your hands on all the stuff over here that you don't even know if you need or care about. If you do know that you want those things and you care about those stuff, then by all means, this Kinfire Council Deluxe Bundle is going to be the cheapest way to get those, because just limited availability on the Deluxeification, the wood upgrade kit. Let me go ahead and show you that. The wood upgrade kit is going to be this over here. That's the $40 MSRP over here on wooden coins, wooden tokens, wooden common resource tokens, rare resource, magic, trouble tokens, lore book, all that stuff is going to be in your and the 6 Neophene playmats is going to be in the deluxe upgrade kit. And then we have the Kinfire Council Winds of Change expansion, which this is something you might want, by the way. That's going to be adding co-op and solo modes to the game, so if you want that added in, if you want to play this game with co-op or solo, you're going to need that. So that's going to be the Kinfire Council Winds of Exchange over there. But going back to what I was saying, as far as holding its value, if you are interested in all the extras, then at that point it is a little bit worth it to get it, but only a little bit worth it. Versus, as far as will it hold its value, my gut instinct is no in this one. There is the deluxe token pack, which is the only reason there's a hesitation. If you do look at the original Kinfire Chronicles, it's doing decently as far as holding its value. Not amazing, not badly, not great, but, well, neither amazing nor terribly, but doing okay. I do think there's less of a compelling reason if you look at the overall cost of this versus the overall what you're getting. So it comes down to how exclusively in demand is that deluxe upgrade kit. I don't think it's going to pull its weight as much. If you look at the success of this campaign, not doing as well as Kinfire Chronicles, still doing well. 1,700 backers is great, make no mistake, and we obviously have 15 days to go. But again, if you just want the bare bones best way to play this game without having to dive into everything, your options are going to be retail. If you do want to get all the stuff and don't want to deal with the secondhand market, then once you're going all in, it is a little bit more worth it, although barely so. And as far as holding its value, I would say less likely, but might get a decent amount back from what you paid for it. Moving on to Ice Unlimited from This Way Games. $369,000 raised, 2,800 backers, 14 days left to go. This is the second edition of Ice, second edition and multiple expansions. Ice is a game that was previously on Kickstarter. They're coming back to GameFound right now with a reprint campaign, but reprint and second edition. So they do have an upgrade kit if you're someone who backed the original game, but they are bringing you a new version or a twist or adjustment to this game. As far as what the game is, it's Ice. You're basically going to be dealing with this board over here that you're going to be putting the various tokens down in different layers, and then slowly but surely with your architects and with your expedition leader, you're going to be excavating through the ice. The whole puzzle of the game, let's see if I can find a picture over here, the whole puzzle of the game is trying to manage your explorers and architects to be able to go deeper and deeper into the ice by paying as few action points as possible. There's a whole action point economy across 4 rounds, and you're trying to basically set up the architects so you don't have to spend any action points when you excavate, as they all slowly fall down into the next tier while you're trying to gather all these relics towards the end and then utilize those relics to cash in for points. So it's all about the action economy across 4 rounds of play, across excavating all these artifacts. The second edition is going to have some small changes. I cover them in the full video. If you want to check out my review of the second edition and expansion, you can check that out. But it's going to have some small quality of life changes to make the game a little shorter, a little more accessible, things like that, clean up some small elements of the game. You're also going to have some expansions. You're going to have the Edifices and Guilds expansion. Some of that's going to be breaking up content from the original game into a new expansion, but we also have a new expansion as well. I believe the Relics expansion, so there's going to be new content there. But the Edifices and Guilds is going to introduce Edifices, which is something we saw in the original game. That gives you a kind of soft legacy aspect where every game you're playing with a rule change that's in play from the previous game. And then Guilds is going to give you two new guilds over here, as well as the guild board, which gives you this new action tokens you can utilize in the game. Then we have the Relics expansion, which again adds 2 new guilds, but also introduces us some new camp tokens, hexagon prismatic tiles, relic cards, diamond relic tiles, and that's going to be what you have over there. As far as pledge levels, let's go on to the pledge levels and talk about the should you back or should you not, all that. We have the Ice Unlimited for €129. We have the third returning backers for €45. That's going to give you all the stuff you need for the new original collector's backers, the Ice Conversion Kit, plus Ice Relics expansion, plus the Ice Map. So you're getting all the new stuff. Obviously you have to deal with your old box and all those things, but it should bring you mostly up to date on your old version of the game. We have the Ice Standard Box for €59, the Ice Full Gameplay Standard Box for €99. That's going to be all the retail content for the game. And then we have the Ice All-In, absolutely everything Ice for €199. That's obviously giving you this wood insert as well, so you're paying for that. If you want that, that's one conversation, but if you don't, you might want to go back up to this €129 option over here if you still want all the upgrades, but without the wooden insert. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? There's a lot of different configurations going on here, so it's a little hard to get into every one of them. I will say in general, when you're looking at retail, I generally recommend getting retail itself. I mean, if you are looking at this retail pledge, wait till retail to see if you get your hands on it there. Generally, retail pledges are going to be cheaper at retail. Not always, especially when they don't have access. If you don't have a retail availability, that's going to be a little bit harder. But I'd say generally wait for retail if you want that. If you are looking for the deluxe options over here, the original Ice game so far has held its value. If you look in the secondhand market for Ice, both on eBay and on BoardGameGeek, that's a game that definitely has gone for more than what people paid for it for the most part. I think I found one sale on the BoardGameGeek marketplace that sold for less than it, but for the most part, most of the sales I'm looking at are selling for above what people paid for the original campaign, which does tell me there's still an interest and demand for this game. It is an expensive game for it is effectively a tile, not really a tile laying game, it's a tile unlaying game, but it is a very different game because of the nature of that tile unlaying puzzle. Most games have you building things up by putting tiles down. This one has you deconstructing in a way that has its own charm to it. So it is very unique in that sense, and it has gotten generally good ratings from people to the point that this is one, although I did get a comment on my video. I got a comment on one of my videos saying that this is one of the few, somebody commented that this is like one of the only games their group didn't finish and they just started it, couldn't get into it, packed it up, and moved on from it. Which is a reminder that every game is not guaranteed to work for you. It doesn't matter how many people like it. Every game has the possibility of just being a dud for you and or your group. But either way, in general, it's one that has held its value. So if you are looking at this one, again, you don't need to go all into this one. You definitely don't. You can get some cheaper options and experience the gameplay. You have to know yourself as far as how much you actually play these games versus how much you want to play all the expansion stuff. I will say as far as expansion integration, I haven't played with the Relics, so I can't comment on that. But I think that the edifices are easy to add in, and I really enjoy them, versus the Guilds expansion was kind of like a hit or miss for me. It doesn't necessarily need to add that much to the game. Anyways, that's going to be Ice over here. Ice from This Way Games. Moving on, we have Dance of Muses, a fascinating pure strategy board game. 624 backers, $28,000 raised, 15 days to go. Dance of Muses gives you a navigational game of you're going to be having your dice over here on these muses, and you're trying to position the muses. You're having the muses execute their dances, and you can do that in solo, or you can do it in groups of muses, but you're trying to ultimately get these dice to 6 over here, but the muses, when they execute their dance, they're going to affect dice around them based on this own little grid pattern. So you can see over here, this one, when you dance this muse, it has a little +1. You can't probably see that close over here. That's a little +1, and it'll impact the muses in the corners around from it. So you have a little puzzle of trying to execute on these abilities of these muses by activating their dances and seeing how it can manipulate the dice up to 6 as efficiently as possible as you go through the game. So a tile manipulation element going on over here. 2 to 4 players, 14 plus, 25 minutes. That's going to be the basic idea of Dance of Muses. The pledge levels over here is going to be print and play for $12. We're going to have the Dance of Muses base game for $22, and we have Dance of Muses Deluxe for $44, as well as from there we get the Art Collector's Bundle for $85 and for $65, and we have the Ascend to Olympus for $108 over there. And then we have the Limited Artist's Life for $324. So primary pledge levels are going to be the main pledge level, and then the deluxeification over here, the Dance of Muses Deluxe over here. At that point, you start getting into more art print stuff or other things, which you can definitely look into, but I usually don't go into those as much. But over here, basically for this game, Dance of Muses, it's one that does fall into that category of the small box problem we have, which even with the deluxe version over here, running you a little more, and that obviously would be the main reason to get this one here. But if you are looking at this game, the main problem in general is going to be, is there retail availability, and is this the best time to get it or not? I would say in general, for $22, it's one that almost certainly won't hold its value. But with 524 people backing it, and that's because of the shipping in general, once you factor in shipping prices and all that, it's usually going to have a hard time holding its value in the secondhand market. But with only 500 people back in the game currently, or 600 people back in the game currently, it's one that's less guaranteed to have that retail presence, so it's less guaranteed to show up in general, which is going to be the caveat as far as it might be the best chance to get your hands on the game if you are interested in the game. And then of course the deluxe version of the game as well, which again I'm skeptical will hold its value, but does give you more stuff that will be harder to track down at retail. So once again, we're kind of in the camp of, if you want to get it, if you want to support it, if you want to guarantee it, then by all means get it. But if you're looking for whether it'll hold its value, I would say less likely there. We have Micro Midgard, 481 backers, 15 days to go, $18,000 raised. Micro Midgard coming to you from the same people who bought you Micro Dojo, and then Micro Dojo the expansion, and then one other game as well. At least one other game. Although they have 5 creators, maybe I'm missing one. Oh, they had that other one too. Yeah, I am missing one. I know now. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember the game. That other one looked cool. Another conversation. Prometheus Game Labs. They brought a bunch of small games, starting off with Micro Dojo. They've delivered on that, and they've continuously brought out more and more games and been delivering on those, building up a good reputation for bringing you small box games, which they are continuing with Micro Midgard to a degree, although they also have a Ragnarok edition that's going to be more of a standard, regular-sized box game, or close to regular size at least. The standard edition of the game is going to run you, here, let's check out the pledge levels. The standard edition of the game is going to run you £12 around $16 for Micro Midgard. And we'll get into the game in a second. But you're going to get this smaller box game, everything unpacks nicely. They cover that well in the video and or in various GIFs across the page if you want to see, I guess, a sense of the scale or scope of it. And then for £40, around $50, we have the Micro Midgard Ragnarok edition, which is going to give you the bigger, more deluxeified game and also includes expansion content baked in. So if you are interested in expansion content for the small box game, just factor in that's already included in the Ragnarok edition. You want to take that into account as you're gauging the price and which one is right for you. And then the retail pledge for $63 over here, which you can ignore. As far as the game itself, the game is going to be a bit of a worker placement puzzle using the same worker placement, kind of shared worker placement element that they had in Micro Dojo, where you're utilizing these workers, you're bumping other workers, but then you put tokens on those workers so that no one else can use them next round. So it's using that as this core mechanism, all while you try to work your way towards Ragnarok and eventually having these various provinces flip over and be a little disconnected, a little less rewards from Ragnarok, and then also having a separate Loki track, I believe. I believe the separate Loki track you're managing as well. That's going to be this track over here. This looks different in the Ragnarok edition. So a little bit of worker placement, puzzle optimization, while Ragnarok slowly explodes around you. Over here we have the Ragnarok edition, which is going to be twice the size over here, giving you doubled or triple layered resource components, and giving you the Yggdrasil expansion baked in by default, as well as double-sided realms for a variable setup. So you're getting more content, more variable gameplay. All those are going to be there, but obviously you're not getting the travel size portability. That is one of the things this company has done well in general. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? This is kind of a mixed bag in general, because we have the small box game and the big box game. I would say that Prometheus Game Labs certainly has done well coming into the market and starting to introduce small, accessible, cheap, affordable games with decent gameplay, very small box size, portable price point, all that. They've done a good job at hitting that niche. Although as far as holding its value, if you look at things like Micro Dojo, they don't hold their value. Again, because of that aspect, small box games generally have a much harder time holding the value in any sense. Just the hassle is usually not worth it. Usually people care about stuff when you're talking about $200 pledges. It's just between shipping and the hassle, small stuff generally doesn't do great on the secondhand market. This one is a little different because it's not just coming with Micro Midgard, but it's coming with the Ragnarok edition. I still am skeptical that it will hold its value. They have done, Prometheus Game Labs has done a good job at putting out good games that have been well enough received, but their games haven't yet been any smashing hits. So far, their games have managed to have an audience, but they're not necessarily, again, with 482 backers, you can see, they aren't yet at the point where they have managed to really pull in an audience, and that lack of desire now generally translates to a lack of desire in the second-hand market as well, or when the game lands. So I am skeptical that even though there's less background information or research available on things like Micro Midgard, the Ragnarok edition, I still am skeptical that this one will hold its value overall. If you are looking to support the creators, this is almost certainly the easiest way to get your hands in it, and if you don't want to deal with the second-hand market, this might even be the cheapest way to get your hands in it, but I'm still skeptical it'll hold its value. Moving on, we have Formosa Tea. Coming to you from TBD, Taiwan board design. They've done, what do they do? I think, wait, it's the same company? I'm trying to remember what same company it is. We have, let me just click through here. TBD, they work with the people who did, they work with, it's not going to load. My internet has been so bad. TBD over here, there we go. We have Taiwan Night Market and Hanamakoji Geisha's Road. So they is that company, yeah. So Hanamakoji Geisha's Road in general, Formosa Tea has previously been put out, and I believe TBD took over it or is working with them to bring you a second edition with expansion content, updates, all that. But the general idea of Formosa Tea, if you can check it, again, it's an existing game already, you can check it out, but it's going to be a worker placement game in which you're managing your tea in the game. You're going to be placing your workers to both gather new tea, to be able to manage the processing of the tea, to be able to fulfill orders as you slowly move it along over here, activating these benefits along the way. This is a game I've played once a long time ago. I actually played it with the people from TBD. They stopped by one time with Hanamakoji Geisha's Road, and I had a chance to play this one with them. But Formosa Tea, it's an overall pretty decent game. I remember I didn't personally get sucked into it. I thought it was very well done, very mechanically solid, and very mechanically satisfying. The tea theme doesn't necessarily do it for me, and there's so many games in the genre that it was an enjoyable game, but that, for me at least, it didn't necessarily stick out. But the Formosa Tea, in general, it's going to be a worker placement tea processing game. It is decently rated. If you check it out on BGG, it's decently rated, so it does have again, it does have audience reviews. So this is one where you're not just relying on content creators. You can check out what other people have thought of it because it is an existing game. This one's going to be an updated version. There's going to be expansion content to it. I've seen a lot of people in the comments who are looking for an upgrade kit for first edition owners. I will say as well, part of the problem is the price on it's actually not that bad, because the price over here is coming in at $50, which looks great, especially when you compare it to the second-hand market. Because this game is hard to get your hands in it, the game generally goes for anywhere between $65 to $80 in the second-hand market. So that $50 price point is starting off at looking great, until you look at shipping, and shipping's going to run you around $30 for the game, even on the low end. I mean, depending where you are, it's going to be different, but I believe actually if you're in Taiwan, it's even free, so there is that upside there. But if you're looking at this as a US backer, you're looking at $30, bringing you to that $8 price point, putting it as the not quite so good deal anymore. With the caveat that even though it is at the higher range of what the used copies are going for, this is going to be the updated version of it with expansion content as well. So it is at the higher end price point, but with new content for the game. So that's going to be a bit of a trade-off there as far as is it worth it or not. Which brings us to should you back or should you not? Will it hold its value? Hard to say on this one. Not a ton of backers are interested, but it is a game that already exists, and there clearly are people who are interested in it, and it is giving you new content, and it's doing so at a price point that, while not great, is somewhat equitable to what the game is going for on the second-hand market, and with new stuff mixed in. So I would say if you're looking at the original edition, this in theory is a better version of the game for similar price points, so it should hold its value-ish on the second-hand market. I will say I'm always a bit more wary when it comes to games like this, because these are games that very much do rely on their lack of availability as why they managed to do so on the second-hand market. So if this is one that does come in and does have a retail presence later, then I would be very skeptical your games will hold the value, especially with you paying $30 shipping on it. So to me, it really comes down to whether the game will have a strong retail presence or not. If this is a one-and-done print run where you don't really have a lot of access, I would say it probably would hold its value, because in theory it's a better version of the original. Versus if they do have that retail presence, then they're basically coming in with a new game at a lower price point, because the other people will not be paying the $30 shipping you are. So it's kind of a risk, and very much hedges on how much retail presence the game actually does have now that it's being reprinted. Moving on, we have Children of Morta, the board game. Children of Morta, based on a video game apparently. When I covered this in my upcoming crowdfunding campaigns for the month of May, I did not comment on the fact that it's from a video game because I didn't know, and a bunch of people helpfully pointed out in the comments, so thank you for that, I appreciate it. With 1,005 backers, $78,000 raised, 17 days to go, Children of Morta is going to be a fast-paced, shared bag-building adventure about a family of guardians standing united against corruption. That's the general pitch of the game. The actual gameplay, to me, from what I can see of it, looks very much my jam. It looks like it very much is leaning into that Slay the Spire roguelite approach, approach with a shared bag building dynamic. You're going to be building up your characters, trying to execute on their abilities, grabbing chips from the bag, utilizing those for your characters. The art looks great. The general theme of the game is based on, there's both a cooperative and a solo mode, and both of them should stand out. At least, again, if you check out the content on the game or the various content creators, it does seem like it's not one that I've had a chance to play myself, but it does seem to be pretty well received from the people who've played it overall. This is one that very much does seem like my kind of game. As far as the pledge levels on it over here, we're going to have $45 for the base pledge of the game. That's going to be the Children of Morta Standard Edition, all stretch goals, and the Family Trait mini expansion. And then we're going to have the Goddess pledge for $85, giving you the deluxe edition of the game, and then all the other things as well. You're basically just getting the deluxe edition of the game. There are going to be Kickstarter extras over here, so we have these over here, the Family Traits mini expansion, that's included in both pledge levels. Oh, there's also, by the way, there's another pledge level here for the Divine Pledge. It's going to give you playmats and deluxe dice as well, I believe. I believe this for sure. So we have the marble dice and the playmats. Yes, that's going to be additional for 116. Up from 85, you're going to get playmats and deluxe dice. But over here, we have the Kickstarter extras. The family trade expansion is going to be Kickstarter exclusive. You can have the deluxe edition as well, which is going to be not available at retail. So you're going to have all these extra, the various upgraded chips, components, and all that. So that's going to be the main reasons to back the game, is going to be that exclusivity or that lack of access to other things. Because again, if you're just looking at the retail edition of the game on its own, which there isn't one on its own, they all have some exclusive content. But then that would be where it would be make more sense to get in retail, versus they do at least have the family traits. Now, coming in at $45 and giving you the family traits and the stretch goals, that's a question as far as whether there'll be enough content to hold this value, and it does also depend on the retail presence. I would still hesitate to say it's a good back, and once you factor in shipping, but it might not be the worst back either. Once you go up to the Goddess Pledge, now you're talking about deluxifications on a game, and that very much will depend on how well this game is received. From what I've seen of the game so far, it does seem to be one that is fun. Again, I have to watch more content as well and really get a sense for it. The testimonials sound good. The overall videos that I've had a chance to look at seem pretty decent. But there's a difference between getting a sense that it was enjoyable, which many games are enjoyable, versus a sense that it stands out. There's a huge difference between enjoying a game and being willing to spend $85 on a game, and that's a big, big difference. I've gotten to the point where I back much fewer things nowadays that I didn't have a chance to play myself. If I played it myself, it's one thing. If I didn't, I back so much less, but I do back a few, and this one does have my eye, so we'll see how this one goes. The add-ons over here, and again, some of these are available in the deluxe pledge over here, is going to be the higher tier pledge. We have $20 US for the Neofree mats, we have $15 for the dice over here. Those are going to give you those as far as optional add-ons. And then again, that's basically it. Then we have stretch goals, all these various things you can see over here. Kickstarter extras, we have extra dice over here. It's going to be one of those things, going to be a reason to back now as opposed to wait for retail. That's kind of what we have on Children of Morta. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, it's kind of up in the air. There's not enough information on this game, including just generally how well this one's going to go. I'm very torn on this one. For the deluxe edition of the game, I could see it holding its value, but I would definitely put it into the risk category of this. It's one that, just because it could hold its value, it also could not. With 1,000 backers on the game, there's not a ton of demand. So the question is, will there be enough reason, will there be enough hype about the game from the people who do play it that elevate it to something that people are trying to hunt down and get their hands on it? And I just don't have that information, at least not yet. Because either this is a forgettable game, which is going to cost you $85 for another good game, and there's so many good games, it doesn't matter, in which case it absolutely will not hold its value, or it's really that good, in which case it will. And so that's too much of a hedging on just how well it's received, because the pure interest alone, sometimes you have a campaign where it has 4,000 backers, almost doesn't matter if the game is good, at least not for a while. Over time it will, but initially there's going to be that hype and buzz when it lands, and people are going to want it who didn't get the original campaign. This one just doesn't have that hype of buzz, so it really does come down to how well it's going to be received, which means it goes into the risk category. Moving on, we have One Card Maze Season 2. 527 backers, 19 days to go, $15,000 raised. One Card Maze Season 2 is, well, appropriate enough, the Season 2 for the One Card Maze. The game is going to be giving you this little maze over here. Now, there's a print-to-play option. There's also an option you can buy stuff. But the general idea is these are mazes that you're going to be flipping them, rotating them, twirling them around, all while you try to finish out the maze. That's the core idea. Meant to be something you can do just while holding in your hand and just navigate and adjust and figure it all out. That's going to be the One Card Maze. You're going to have the print and play for Season 2 for $8 or $6 over here, $6 US. You're going to have the One Eclectic Wallet for $10 over here. So if you want a printed copy of the game with the mazes for the game, it's going to be 18 cards over here. The basic maze, that's one. Then we have the Everything One Card Maze for $36. It's going to give you 4 different packs. Those 4 packs are the Eclectic Pack, the Junior Pack, I don't know if the official name of it, but we have the Boss Pack. The Boss Pack is going to be ways where you basically are trying to attack a boss based on the angle you come in from different sides. So kind of the similar core concept, but with a different spin on it in terms of how you're trying to be mindful of your own health and taking down the boss. The fledgling set is the same idea, but meant to be a little more child-friendly. And then lastly, there's going to be the stretch goal set, which if we scroll down over here, the stretch goal set is basically the stuff that's all being created throughout this campaign, where we can eventually find it over here somewhere. Here we go. It's currently under construction, but they're hoping to, it looks like they're hoping to have 18, but currently they have this many unlocked. We'll see how many more there will be unlocked, but that's going to be what you get over there. So that's going to be $36 to get all 4 packs, which is $9 a pack, which is not bad, especially if you're going to be playing this. And then we have for design your own boss for $220 if you want that. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? This one falls in the category of, again, small box game, not likely to hold its value. But if you are looking to get your hands on it, this may well be the cheapest way to get your hands on it, just because of the cheapness and the price point and the lack of available access otherwise. So again, like any button shy campaign, if you want it, good time to get it. If you don't want it, well, then you shouldn't get it in general, and it's one that's less likely to hold its value. We have Epoch, Course of Cultures, a 4X Civ game, and yes, because even in my review, when I reviewed this game, and in the first 10 seconds of my review, I'm like, Epoch, and just so you know, it's pronounced Epoch or Epic, depending on where you are. And then I had someone in the comments being, another person doesn't know how to pronounce, another person doesn't know how to pronounce Epoch or Epic. But yes, Epoch or Epic is a word that is pronounced differently depending on where you're from. I personally like the word Epoch more than Epic because it sounds cooler, and that's the way it looks. So I'm going to go with Epoch instead of Epic. But it is, both are right, just so you know, both are right. Anyways, Epoch, Course of Cultures, 877 backers, $112,000 raised, 21 days to go. Coming to you from Ice Makes. This is like their, their 8th campaign, but I don't even know. They have Age of Civilization. They have Age of the Space one. They have Terrascape is their big one that came out. They had another one in between that didn't get as well received either. And then they had like another one. They've had a bunch of games. And then we have Epochs as well over here, giving you a 4X Civ game, building on some core aspects that made Age of Civilization great. Age of Civilization is a small Civ game that I think is one of the better small abstracted Civ games you can play. Really well done. Highly recommend checking out Age of Civilization if you can get your hands on it. As far as Epoch, that builds in some of the mechanics while bringing you a bigger game experience. This is going to be a 4X game in theory. I think it's the full 4Xs. Not actually sure about that. But you're going to be exploring text over here, expanding across the land, engaging in combat, building up your tech advancements, trying to survive across these 3 epochs while you build up your army, abstracted army, and you choose to either become a peaceful person, building things up diplomatically as much as possible while managing your governments, or alternatively leading into being a warmonger and attacking with other players, but then when they attack you back, there's no consequence for them. So it's kind of a win-win when you think about it. Anyways, as far as the pledge levels, we have $85 for the core game over here. We have $108 for the gameplay bundle. That's going to give you the expansion, the Middle East and Latin America expansion. And I think that, we have the deluxe over here for $169, giving you a whole bunch of extras, which you can all buy separately as well if you want to scroll through that. And then the early bird you can ignore because, well, not really available. As far as over here, we have a whole bunch of civilizations. I think there's like 10 plus the various stretch goals. I think 10 between the base game and the expansion plus the various stretch goals, I should say. Lots of content in the game you can check out. So you can check out a lot of opinions in the game. And then past that, if we scroll down over here, where's the extras over here? We have the expansion, like I said already. And then over here, we have all the deluxe content. So this is going to be the stuff that's available in that $163 or $169 pledge over here. For the deluxe foil token sets over here, we have the supply trays, we have the first player token, foil honor tokens, foil military tokens, all these various upgraded tokens over here for the game. And these box holders and card holders and play mats, all that stuff for Epoch over here. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? It's hard to say on this one. If you look at Ice Makes has had a bunch of campaigns, and some have done better than others. So if you look at something like Terrascape did incredibly well. Terrascape, sold well. You can find copies going for a decent price point in the second-hand market as well. And then we have something like Morpho or Age of Galaxy or Isla. Isla also did pretty well, honestly. But you have different games from them that have all done, if you look at the backer counts, you have anything from like 5,000 backers to hundreds of backers on their campaigns. They put out a bunch of very different games, and the degree of differences has actually been one of the things that makes them games stand out. If you look at games like Terrascape or Isla, they have done incredibly well as far as those back counts and also the reception. I think a big part of that is the games feel different. They might have core elements that are similar to other games, but they very much do feel different in a crowded space. Isla is a very different kind of a more accessible semi-campaign game, but only 5 missions and very solo focused as you choose these cards. Very different mechanic as far as how the game operates. Terrascape has the pure table presence of a hidden movement game that gives you a full-on mansion between the players, it gives you a huge amount of just table presence that really makes it stand out. Whereas something like Epoch, I think is going to fall more in the category of something like Morpho for them, where there's less of a demand on this game, because Epoch is competing in a world full of 4X games, and the question is, what's the hook of this one? Their games that have done the best have been the games that had a hook, had something that was different, and if you look at the back count on Epoch compared to other games, again, I think that's standing true now, but also down the road. And so I think that's where you fall into the should you back or should you not will hold its value. It's hard to say. Ice Makes have had campaigns that did hold their value. I don't think Epoch is going to fall in that category. I think the game is not on the cheap side at all. Once you factor in the shipping as well, the shipping's not cheap either. So you're looking at over $100 on the base end to get this game, closer to $200 if you're going all in, and that's just a lot of money when you're looking at other games like Through the Ages or Clash of Cultures that are available that are more established. I do think this is one that's going to have a harder time holding its value on the secondhand market. Moving on to Eye of Zamrock Invasion from Infinite Galaxy. $29,000 raised, 22 days left to go, 216 backers. Eye of Zamrock is an ambitious game. A competitive epic fantasy board game with elements of strategy, adventure, city building, and resource management. There's a lot happening in this game if you go through it. This looks like, it looks like a lot as far as just the sheer amount of stuff going on that you're going to be managing. You can check out videos on the game. I'm not going to be doing a deep dive into how this operates or how it works, but there's a lot happening. There's a lot to learn, and this is going to run you on the, it's going to run you €89 for the base game. You're going to have the adventure pledge with the extended bundle, the base game plus add-ons for €121, and then the expanded bundle plus playmat for €140. It's going to be an additional €20 for that. The game itself, again, I'm not going to heavily dive into it. You can check out there's other content on the game, but overall, it looks like they're trying to do a lot to make this feel like an epic, ambitious game, and that may result in it being an epic, ambitious game or not. I don't know yet. I haven't played it myself. The testimonials are pretty strong in the game, but again, limited. It always take testimonials with a heavy grain of salt. It's easy. A big thing about testimonials is that it's always easy to find someone who loved your game. Finding a bunch of people, like if you're sick and tired of how every single game in crowdfunding manages to sound like the best thing since sliced bread, one thing you have to remember offhand is that every game could have two people who loved it, and there's enough content creators that you'll always have two people who make it sound like the best thing since sliced bread. For me, you'll find like 4 or 5 campaigns a year that have a quote from me that make it sound like I love it. And I do for those 4 or 5 games a year. Then you'll have like 3 or 4 games a year where people manage to find a quote that sounds really good, but they took it out of context and it just makes it sound more positive, which is another thing. You need to be mindful of the marketing that is crowdfunding. You're definitely being marketed to. You should find the content creators whose tastes resonate with your own. Try to figure out whether you feel like they have done well by you. That's a good, whatever, separate conversation. We're diving into a whole rabbit hole. We've talked about this. We'll talk about it again. But either way, that's going to be Eye of Zamrock Invasion. As far as why should you back or should you not will hold its value, skeptical it will. The low demand in this one plus the high price point does mean that this one falls into the category. If you want to guarantee access to it, this is almost certainly the best way to do it because hard to say if it'll be available down the road. They actually talk about availability. They talk about they plan to have available, although I'm not sure. With 216 backers, I just don't know if that demand is there to really push this forward unless they're trying to push themselves. But I think retail presence on this one's going to be hard, so might come down to additional crowdfunding and on their web store, conventions, things like that. But I think there'll be lower availability in this one, so if you want to lock it in, by all means, but I'm skeptical it'll hold its value in the secondhand market. Moving on to Vicious Gardens, a brutally fun gardening game. A game that, as soon as I saw the game and the $137,000 raised, plus 2,300 backers, 24 days to go, I immediately scrolled to the bottom to see if this was being run by LaunchBoom. In general, by the way, if you're a creator, LaunchBoom has been doing very well for certain types of projects. I think LaunchBoom has done very well for things that are like nature theme, outdoorsy, artsy, things that almost feel like they're more friendly to the non-standard crowdfunding world, which that might sound wrong, but if you are the type of game that might be more friendly to someone who's never really backed giant dungeon crawler games, then I think that LaunchBoom has managed to find a good niche that manages to do well for those projects. For first-time creators, manages to put them on a ramp towards a decent degree of success, meaning, again, they like to tout their $2 million projects, of course, I would too, but $138,000 is nothing to sneeze at for a first-time creator, so like that's not a small deal either. But if you are a creator who's running something that has a more standard crowdfunding audience, I don't think LaunchBoom has proven to be as successful in really ramping up those numbers for established creators. Again, the whole dollar pledge, a good example, if you look at Last Light the second time round didn't do any better than the Last Light the first time round, even with the whole dollar pledge. So I think you really have to know your audience and who these things work for versus not. I think they do have an audience and they do work for some people, but not across the board. As far as Vicious Gardens over here, Vicious Gardens, the game looks very beautiful, although also like almost overwhelming in the amount of visual data that's present on these cards that is not actually relevant to any mechanical aspect. Either way, the game looks good, but it throws me off trying to process, like, what are these cards? Does anything actually matter on it? And the color is what seems to matter, at least from what I can track over here from the rules. But in the game, you're going to be gathering these cards, you're going to be utilizing your abilities. I can't remember if it's abilities or gardeners or cards, using something like that. You're trying to, I'm not going to remember how to play this game. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot how to go through this over here. They had a whole thing on the how to play, but I'm blanking. Let's go find the how to play on this one. How to play. It's very loose how to play. You're going to be planting your cards, you're going to be using a specialist, and you're going to be harvesting for victory points. That's the basic arc over there. That's the basic arc of Vicious over here. It's called Vicious? No, Vicious Gardens. Vicious Gardens. As far as the pledge levels, you're going to look at $5. Well, ignore that one. We're going to have $36 for the Vicious Garden at 10% off MSRP. Now, again, keep in mind who this is catering to. 10% off MSRP once you factor in shipping is not a savings at all. You would get that game much cheaper in retail if they have any retail presence. We have over here, we have $42 for the Vicious Gardens Plus exclusive slipcase. This one over here at least is giving you something exclusive, although the only thing I can see that was exclusive was the slipcase. So you're paying more for it, so you are paying more for that slipcase in general, and then you're also getting, you know, you're still not getting a good price to begin with. Then we have the Vicious Gardens Plus expansions 1 and 2 for $48. We have 3 and 4 for $48, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 for $56 for the Master Gardener bundle, which in general is what they're trying to push you to. That's going to have the expansions at a 20% off MSRP, which again, once you factor in shipping, you're not saving money, you're actually spending more on this than it would be if it has a retail presence, which this one should probably end up with the retail presence. The game's popular enough. Again, 130,000 is not like, you know, smashing out of the park, but it is doing well enough that I imagine this one will have a retail presence. So, yeah, that's going to be Vicious Gardens over here. I think as far as should you back or should you not will hold its value. I think that the only real compelling reason would be the slipcase, if you care about that. But outside of that, I think this is one that's less likely to hold its value and one that you can get cheaper in retail. Dutch Resistance, Orange Shell Overcome, and Expansion. 682 backers, 24 days to go, $56,000 raised. This one over here is going to be, this is a solo and co-op. I think it's just a solo and co-op. I'm pretty sure it's solo and co-op. Solo and co-op, I believe so. But it's going to be a pick up and deliver resource management game. Sorry, I had to pause for a second. Pick up and deliver resource management game. The general game has been well rated. This is the reprint and expansion over here. The original game has been well received, well rated if you're on BGG, so you can check that one out. So you can see general thoughts and opinions, not relying on just content creators. There are stuff out there. This is going to be the expansion and reprint. They have a print and play. They have the expansion for £35 over here, around $38, and we have the base game for $65, which is actually a small bump over the original campaign. And then we have the all-in for $135. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value. If you look at the original campaign, it manages to go for, because again, the original game delivered already, there is a second-hand market for it. The original game is going for a little bit less than people paid for it, so in that rough range. So you're probably losing around shipping, but that's about it. So it's mostly holding its value, while not completely. As far as the expansion, like will fall into a similar category, although the usual thing you want to remember is, especially when you're doing the second-hand market, that you're going to be doing a slightly different pool, because people will want the expansion if they already have the base game, and there's going to be fewer people that want both on the second-hand market. So overall, one that I think will generally hold its value, but with probably some small amount of hit on it as you go. And then lastly, we have Lightspeed Arena, Smart Tabletop Battles, $29,000 raised, 609 backers, 26 days to go. It's small. It's a little shorter than last time. Not that much shorter, but we have a little shorter than the last few weeks. 609 backers, $29,000 raised, 26 days to go. Lightspeed Arena over here is going to be running. Lightspeed Arena is giving you a game that previously came out as Lightspeed, then was rebranded as Stellar Conflict, I believe, and now we have Lightspeed Arena bringing you the similar but slightly different gameplay in the sense that this is a game where you're going to be placing cards rapid fire down onto the table. Everyone's going to have like I think 8 seconds to place down a card, maybe it's 10 seconds, whatever it is, and you're placing down your cards, being mindful of the shields and lasers and the asteroids as you ultimately try to earn points from mining those. Then each ship is going to fire based on the initiative order. So you're trying to be mindful that as you place things down, things are slowly going to be going boom as you go through it. Now, one of the main things about Lightspeed Arena that's different is they give you an app that automatically resolves everything for you. So you play this whole game, you're placing things down rapid fire into the table, and then you snap a picture of it, and the app resolves everything. It texts all the cards, it shows you the lasers, and it's like, oh, this ship got hit, this ship's now removed from play, that ship hit the asteroid, now it's 2 points. So it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and completely see and resolve the battle by just going through the app as opposed to having to do it manually, which is what the original games required you to do. The games over here is going to be $27 for the Cadet base game over here with all Kickstarter exclusives. You're going to have $40 for the Rising Star. That's going to give you one of the expansions, the Glyphon or Black Hole, which I believe are faction-based expansions. We have $49 for both expansions, I think it is, with both expansions. And then we have over here $60 for the Nostalgic Ace. This is going to, for an additional $11, give you the ability to play it with the original rules. If you don't want to use the app, if you want to play it the original way, this is going to give you the small rubber bands you need and different mechanics or tools you'll need to be able to track everything without utilizing the app. So if you want to check that out, that's going to be an option for those who are mindful or wary of apps. And then we have the 24-hour special, which is gone now, so you can ignore that. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical skeptical it will. The original Lightspeed Arena, the original Lightspeed, you know, not a game that has held its value in the secondary market. Stellar Conflict, same situation. This is kind of a more expensive crowdfunding version of that game. Now they are giving you the app, so there's something different here. There's no question about that. But in general, this is a game that's already had 2 iterations, and neither iteration has done great on the secondary market. So I believe this is likely going to fall into the same category. If you just want to get your hands on the game, this might even be cheaper at retail. Although again, with 609 backers, it might not have a huge presence. So I'd say if you want to support the creators, if you want to guarantee a copy, by all means get in on crowdfunding. But if you're just interested in the cheapest way to get your hands on the game without worrying about everything, then I get it retail, and the secondary market likely will be cheaper as well. And that's what we have for our campaigns of the week, which means it's time for our picks of the week. As usual, picks of the week mean we're picking 2 picks of the week. The game that is most likely to hold its value on the secondary market, and the game that is my personal interest pick of the week. And to that end, the game that I think is most likely to hold its value is Ice Unlimited. It does have a caveat that you never know with first editions, second editions, how well they'll do, but I'd say this is the one that has had the first edition of Ice has had the greatest amount of how well it's held its value on the secondary market. So I'd say Ice is likely the value pick of the week. And then for the personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to go with Children of Morta. I don't know if the game's good at all. I have no idea. And I'm trying to resist backing it. I probably will resist backing it. Because again, I don't know. So why take that risk? I can pick up a copy down the road if it really proves to be that good. But ultimately, Children of Morta is definitely one that I'm very interested in it. I do want this game. It looks cool. It looks fun. This is the one that very much has captured my eye as far as a game I want to table and play. From there, we go to the upcoming campaigns for next week. We have Rove coming up next week, where you can check out Rove. It's going to be launching from Addicts Games, a 1 to 4 player campaign, adventure, 50 unique quests, all that. That's going to be launching next week on Kickstarter. And then we have Feudum from Oddbird Games, launching on GameFound. 10,000 people following the campaign over here. Feudum is, well, it's on its 7th anniversary edition or whatnot. Over here, 7th anniversary edition of the game. But you can check this out. A game I have not had a chance to play myself. I've heard very good things about it, but it does seem to be a very heavy game, so you want to be mindful of that too. But that is everything we have. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I appreciate you being here, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Recently I've been on a diet kick, and I've been trying to tell people all about the benefits of eating dried grapes. I'm all about raising awareness.